I don't see him.
Good evening, everyone. The North Ridgeville City Council Committee of the Whole is now in session. Today is Thursday, March 5th, 2026, and the time is 7 p.m. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Rogerson.
Here.
Hollop. Here. Havens. Here. Winkle.
Here.
Belansky. Here. Zingali.
Here.
Swink.
Here. Let the record also show that joining us from the administration is Mr. Mayor Corcoran and the Director of Planning and Economic Development, Kim Lieber. Tonight we will be discussing the Chestnut Ridge Road Development Project. And at this point, I will turn it over to the mayor.
All right, thank you. So this is an opportunity for the city for some connectivity. It has the residential component to it, but from the city's perspective, the ability to connect is the driver on our side. We have Waterbury Boulevard that runs right now from Sugar Ridge, and it ends just a little bit south of Shady Drive. This project could then connect that ending point to the roundabout at alternate 83, ultimately then connecting Sugar Ridge to Route 10. Coupling that with the idea that the Race Road overpass is in play, we could then have another north-south connection between Center Ridge and Route 10. So that's a significant feat for the city. And when I spoke to both the police and fire chief, they talked about how it would be an improvement to run times for that area. If you know the layout of Waterbury, for example, going down Victoria to Terrell to those homes on the east side of Waterbury, that's a long stretch for any of our fire departments, even Station 2. With the connection, you'd have more of a southeast to northwest connection from Lorraine, which would help our fire department, Station 2, get to those areas a lot faster. And we know that from time to time, we do have longer run times in that quadrant of the city. And, wherever you have neighborhoods, the police department would always appreciate more connectivity as well. So that is the big driver of our interest in this project. We know that the presentation will be great, and we'll see what you think of it. But I want to thank Russ Burzin and his team, and he'll introduce them from there for being here tonight. Thanks.
We're on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you again for attending this little celebration of Ridgeville Crossings. That's the name we've unofficially dubbed to our property. And as such, it does represent, as the mayor suggested, an opportunity to have north meet south and improve the connectivity in the community of North Ridgeville. That, of course, comes with the addition of a senior or active adult community that our market research has told us is sorely needed to serve those of us that have achieved that age designation. I think the advantages of bringing that style of housing here are many. Again, we're underserved demographically with that style of housing. There'll be a clubhouse and various sizes and shapes of housing available for the residents. but it also won't produce new students to the school system. And I think our research has shown that you have enough students coming into the community schools. So I think you have the opportunity to bring a quality product to a quality community and generate tax dollars and new improvements that will benefit everybody. With that, I'd like to introduce the members of the team. And to my right is Nick Summer. And Nick will talk about various parts. And between the rows between the two thorns there is Emily Ketcher. Emily is the head of the division of Ryan Homes that is participating in this with us. And then we have Chris Joseph, who is the land acquisitions manager that I've been working with as well. So with that, I'd like very much to turn over the program to Chris and have him walk through this for you. And I'm going to fade into the background. Okay?
Thank you, Russ. So we're going to keep it relatively high level to get started. Starting with just a project overview. This is, like Russ said, an active adult neighborhood, owner occupied, so no rental units, and it will be age restricted at 55 and over. We do plan to improve some infrastructure so that critical roadway connection, the north-south, and extend sewer to neighborhoods that have aging septic systems. City developer partnership, so there will be a land swap that we'll talk a little bit more about that will increase North Ridgeville's land holdings by the end of the community. We plan on creating a better community garden when it's relocated, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the tax increment financing in that incentive district. Next slide here shows the location, located to the north of State Route 83 in Chestnut Roundabout. The green outline space is the proposed development. The blue is what North Ridgeville currently owns, which was designated as a future road. Next, just the community layout here. Again, this highlights that connectivity from Chestnut through Waterbury that everyone's spoken about so far. You can see to the southwest, we've got a single-family ranch portion of the community, and then to the northeast, we are proposing paired villas, both single-story living. Next one there, Nick. So the community concept will be active adult, so not a nursing home, not assisted living. These will be owner-occupied units. It is age restricted, so very little impact on the school system, if any. But like Russ said, those tax dollars will benefit the schools without a negative impact. Amenities, there will be clubhouse, green space, trails, and that community garden will be relocated and improved. Living options, we've got some proposed units here, some renderings of our single-story product, both detached and the paired villa. Again, these are subject to change, but what you're looking at here is all single-story living, and we plan on the single-story or the single-family unit to be around $400,000 to start, and the paired villas in the mid-300s. Next summer, is going to go through a little bit more detail.
All right. Thank you, Council, for having us here today. Just excited to expand on this concept a little further here. So thank you for Chris to giving us an overview here. So a little backstory, me, Russ, Emily, Chris, we've been working on this project now in the background probably a little over a year, going on 18 months trying to refine it, just build the vision. So fully understand we're still in the infancy here, but looking to propose our vision to you guys and then get some feedback of moving forward here. So specifically talking about the benefit to Ridgeville, some moments here, I'll be flipping back and forth, but Connector Road, I feel like that's the key piece of this project here. Connecting north-south, another path other than 83, improve safety, emergency access, and mobility. Second, to me, the main point is bringing public sewer extension that brings the utility to the public project boundary, and that's enabling future connections. So if I'm flipping back here, so in my discussions with city staff, the sewer is going to be right here. Sorry, it's not working. Yep, bottom of Waterbury Boulevard, that's where the sanitary connection is. My understanding is up on, that would be the east side, Lakeside Avenue, there's some case failing septic systems. So as part of this project, we would be bringing that utility to the property line there. So I just view that as a proactive way of septic's failing, aging. We're going to have a sanitary connection there rather than, hey, it's failing, we don't know what to do. We're going to bring that there to have that as future access. Relocation and expansion of the community garden. I put this as 3. It's probably close to number 2. I think it's a great part of the community. Kim shared with me that signups, I think, have started, soon to be. Yeah, we're already getting calls. All right, already getting calls for plots. So what we envisioned for the community garden, again, apologize for this flipping back and forth. It would be on the southern part, of the green space now on Chestnut Ridge. Measured that out. It's a little over 2 acres right now is what's dedicated to that. We are proposing to, I'm gonna jump out here. We are proposing bringing it up to this corner here and relocating it. So again, it sounds like 2 acres now is everyone is absolutely using that. So we would look to keep it the same size, or if not, expand that to a larger plot. Some of the other things we were thinking with the community garden is just possibly improving it or generating some value for the community. So we thought maybe possibly a permanent water tap or permanent storage. I know there's some sheds out there now, but if we poured a concrete pad, framed it up, put a roof on so it could be used year after year, or a slight pavilion, we thought would be another good idea. And then the last point on this public infrastructure right here is potential funds as a source to improve the Shady Drive district. Again, I think that's a great public asset, and looking to use any excess revenues possibly to improve that as well. Last point on this page. So right now, this parcel is in a commercial industrial incentive district, not performing. So what we would be proposing would be switching that to a residential and using TIF funds. So it's any excess revenues that the property is currently generating in its state, the new revenues from taxes would be used to improve public infrastructure for this. So bringing utilities, the road through, but by no means this would be used for any private development, private utilities, home building. It would only be for the public infrastructure. Second part on that TIF is what we would be proposing as a non-school TIF. So would not be touching the funds that would be going to the school. So schools would remain whole and not diverting funds from the school district. All right, so land swap, the next part of this project here. So Chris briefly touched on it, a couple shades here. So I'm gonna flip back, it might be easier. So the green outline is the parcel we are discussing. The blue, that swath through the middle, that is what's currently owned by North Ridgeville, again, for a proposed road in the future going through. So it is our understanding that going north would not be the most conducive way to get that road, that north-south connectivity. So we would be diverting that to the Waterbury boulevard, slicing over to that to make that connection. So that city land is currently at 19 acres approximately. 26 acres is what we are estimating at the end of the project that would be donated back to the city, put into the city's hands. So that would be a net gain of roughly a little more than 6 acres. And that would be majority of the treed section that's currently on the property. We were thinking possibly walking trails through, in addition to the land for the community garden. So that would be now on land that is owned by the city. It wouldn't be leased or rented from someone currently. Permanent open space, and then improved traffic flow, reduced emergencies response times. So after I rambled through that, next steps would be path forward. So there would have to be a more substantial discussion on the land swap with Russ and myself for development partners, what that would look like, timing for that, relocation of the community garden, et cetera. It's establishing a TIF incentive district would be 2 in the process. And again, we glossed over at very high level, but would be review approval of development plan, layout of roads, number of units, spacing between units, type of product, et cetera. But that would be 2-3 steps down the line. So closing summary here. So this project will strengthen North Ridgeville's infrastructure, securing a critical roadway connection, improve traffic circulation and emergency responses, and leverage TIF resources to enhance the community. So I just view it as a proactive approach of heading off some possible problems at the pass before they get too large. So that is the summary. I probably didn't need this the whole time, maybe. Project in a nutshell, but just wanted to open it up for questions. Give the mayor, Kim, time if they had any questions, and see any feedback you guys have.
Thank you for your presentation. Any feedback from the mayor?
You know, they mentioned the residential TIF. I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. You know, we have commercial TIFs set up in the city. We had a presentation by an outside attorney to talk about the residential TIF. It's similarly structured to the commercial. We were looking at adding that to a couple of different parcels within the community. It allows us to use tax money that would normally go to the county that would be able to be used by the city for infrastructure purposes. So it gives us the ability to contribute something to the roadway if we wanted to, and also allow us to build out Shady Drive, you know, which is currently part of the master plan process of Park and Rec, which, you know, we have, is it 22 or 26 acres over there? 26 acres over there. So, you know, we have been looking for a funding source to be able to do that, and this would help provide that. So the connectivity, the second point, though, the sewers. So there's a neighborhood to the east of where their property project would end that has quite a bit of failing septic systems. Last year, we cleaned out a ditch that runs along Mrs. Shartman's property, and we know that there are significant failings over there. So to be able to connect that neighborhood to sewer, sanitary sewer, would be an improvement for the health and safety of the welfare of those residents in that area. Those are the big points. That's all.
If I can just add, council's used to reviewing development plans where planning commission reviews the project, makes a recommendation, council approves or approves with conditions. This is a unique project because it's not just a simple planning commission application and a development. There's other legislative steps that would need to be involved, which is what makes this more complicated. So to me, you know, the first step is really considering that land swap land acquisition piece, because without that, the project does not move. So, council action, legislative action would be needed to allow for the swap of that property for the connection of the road. So that's piece one. Legislation piece two would be to create an incentive district. So to put, one, to remove any parcels that might be non-performing in the current TIF, although we'll have to check and see if all the parcels are, but to establish that new incentive district that would allow then the increment of additional value to fund infrastructure improvement serving that general area. So that would be item two. Potential number three would be if there's a TIF agreement with the developer for any use of those funds towards the project, that would be legislative item number three. We haven't gotten to the development plan yet. Development plan. So that piece, again, they would make application, go before Planning Commission. This is zoned R1 Residence District. In that district, a conditional use is senior citizen planned residential development. So that is the method that the developer is proposing. So not cluster housing, it is a senior citizen planned development district. So that still exists in our code and under chapter 1250. So that is more like your administrative action on the development plan. Am I missing anything? I think that's it. So I just wanted to outline what all the different pieces and parts would be, to also explain why we thought this presentation to council was important, because there's so many different moving parts that are very unlike other development projects we tend to see in our city.
And I'd just like to point out the piece that we own over there. It was originally set up so that way alternate or 83 could be moved over to the west. That was the plan. It was supposed to be changed a long, long time ago. That roadway, that portion no longer serves our purpose, because that road's never going to be moved in that to the west. So, that connectivity part is our best use of the land that we have to be able to connect that north-south, route that I was mentioning earlier. It is important. We've talked about the safety benefit, and remember when we applied for the Race Road overpass, that was one of the reasons why we were able to receive those funds, was because that project alone was going to improve safety response times. But this project coupled with that one improves it, by quite a bit more.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do any members of the committee have any comments or questions?
Madam President, question, could you expand a little bit on the funding source for the Shady Drive complex? What you meant by that? Yes.
Any other members have any comments or questions?
Madam President,
Mr. Evans?
a couple of questions. The area that's called City Lands Post-Development, is that wetlands?
Yes, so there is sporadic, sporadic wetlands all throughout there. And again, that was one of my reasons for proposing the alternate route of moving the road, because it'd be quite the undertaking for the city to go through that wetlands to the north.
I appreciate that, because of land that you'd have to go through, I don't think you want to deal with her. And also, you mentioned connection of sanitaries to the residents with the septic systems. Who would pay the connection fee?
The homeowner.
Would that be the homeowner?
Yes, that's always the case. When sewer is run, those homeowners would have to connect and pay for that fee.
Okay.
But they're only running it to the property line. They're not running it to that neighborhood.
Okay.
Within the neighborhood, I should say. They're running it to the property line.
And then the other question is, your blocks it out, the Shaw area that I call, that's at the little piece of land where the legend is. That area floods easily and frequently. Have you taken that into account?
Yes, so there is a little piece of this parcel, it's not laid out there, but it would be, just where, if you could see State Route 83,
Mm-hmm.
there is a piece of parcel that is contracted there. We don't have a use for that right now, but, no, it's not been.
Because I'm gonna hear, I'm gonna hear from them.
Well, I think, again, high level, my feeling on that is right now, any rain, water, storms, this is going uncontrolled to God knows where. If this would be to be developed, it couldn't flow off of the property. So, again, high level, in my opinion, it's gonna actually help. It's contained on the site, it needs to be managed, it's just not spilling out of the site.
I do think that retention being self-managed in the community would help surrounding parcels.
I don't necessarily disagree with you, but I have to ask the question.
I understand. I get it.
Fair. Bob, did you have another question?
It was more of a comment, I guess, to somewhat for the mayor. Would there be any consideration, if this were to come to fruition, for advancing senior center programming or senior center offerings with the population growing slightly?
We're always looking to add programs for seniors. It'd be nice if we had more space. We are trying to expand currently into the old police gym that was in the garage. We have to do some concrete work for the flooring of that space. We have talked about in the budget process of moving the park and rec people over to the downstairs area underneath us after it would be renovated. But that would give the seniors more space as well. So yeah, with more space, we can do more things. And so we have a plan right now to try to expand those programming.
One thing I would say to that is with this being active adult, that clubhouse would hopefully have programming of its own. We haven't done, Ryan hasn't done an active adult in Northeast Ohio yet. We've done lifestyle, which is ranches without a clubhouse. Generally, when you talk about something that's active adult, it has programming of some sort. So is that once a month cooking, a gardening club, chair Pilates? The idea would be that, when you build an active adult, not only are you making sure people can age in place in their homes, but ultimately you're helping give them a sense of community, because more studies show that the more social and active that we stay as we age, the longer we live, the happier we live. So when we talk about active adult, we really would like to foster some of those things within the community. Now, again, we're in the infancy stages of this, but it could be something to consider of, okay, the third Wednesday of every month, it is open to the community, and that's what, the cooking night is, or something like that. So I think this could be a part of the solution if you are looking to enhance the senior program.
Through the chair?
Mr. Abens, can we give someone else a
Sure.
shot first? Does anybody else have any comments or questions?
Madam President?
Katie?
Yes. I know this is very early on in this process, but is there any idea of how much the HOA would be?
You're right, it is early. My guess would be 200 to 250, just depending on initial cost of the pool and clubhouse, the activities, if we're gonna have a site director. We do work with a variety of HOA management companies, and that seems to be about the amount. That would be a month. About $250 a month. That's what I look at today. By the time this goes in, could it be $285? But my goal would be to make sure there's a relative affordability to it and keep it under $300.
Yeah, that is actually cheaper than most.
Yes.
And then is this, they don't have to cut grass or anything like that?
Correct.
Okay.
It would be maintenance free.
Maintenance free,
Yeah,
okay.
Great question.
Thank you.
Yeah, so that'd be snow plowing. And typically when we do that, an important part for this product line again is anything that we install, so we'd install all the landscaping, the beds, and a basic package, and again, the city would get to approve all of that if they wanted to. But then if you wanted to put in your own little garden, if you wanted to add, some vegetables, you're allowed to do that. At that point, you maintain your own little piece of that part of the yard.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ms. Zingali?
Yes, this is, I guess, probably more for the administration. With the uncertainty coming up with property taxes, how would that impact our benefits from the TIF?
That's a great question. That is something that is going to be a really interesting legal fight because, as you know, even in North Ridgeville, like, for example, the new high school is paid for by property tax revenue. So what happens with that when you've committed bond money, to be paid back by property taxes? Are you going to have to keep those property taxes in place until that project is paid off? It's a fascinating question and one that is not being discussed at all by the state. They're just talking about removing property taxes and not talking about step 2 or step 3, which is where the scary part comes from. So I don't have an answer for you right now. We're waiting for somebody to be smart enough to start that conversation, and so far we're still waiting.
So that would be my big concern is, while it's beneficial to the schools because we're not going to be impacting them, what about our other services? So I guess until we know what's going to happen, what do we do? Thank you.
Bruce, you had something else?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment. Pioneer Ridge is in my ward as well. They don't really utilize our senior center as much because they have their own community center. And quite frankly, if you design yours like theirs, they have no need for our community center.
Thank you, Bruce. Any other committee members have any comments or questions?
Madam President,
Mr. Winkle?
I have a couple questions / comments. The connectivity, north-south connectivity, we talked about a lot of times over the last several years about our response times with our safety forces. The chiefs aren't here, so I'd like a little elaboration in this section of town to give us a better idea of how this impacts going from Sugar Ridge to Chestnut in that regard for response times.
Well, I don't have specific numbers, but you're cutting off, as I gave you that imaginary line running down Lorraine to Victoria, all the way up to Terrell to come back over to the right and service all those homes on that side. You're talking about, what, a couple of miles that you're going to then be able to cut off by taking that diagonal northwest route from Lorraine instead. How fast does an ambulance drive? A couple of miles? I don't know, but
Sure.
You can see it will save some significant amount of time. If they have to come from the other direction, once Race Road is put in, if they're running down Center Ridge, they have a much faster response time from that angle. And then long term, you have to start to consider a third fire station for the whole west side of the city anyway. And that would be helpful to be able to get north and south from that location wherever it was planned for. But that's way in the future, I think. I don't think the community's ready to be paying for much of anything else right now, especially if they're going to fight to take property taxes away.
Yeah, I know that anytime we're trying to establish more north-south connectivity, it's something we've all talked about for years where it's super important to do, and we have a lack of it. We get bottlenecked from time to time with, we're so large, just to be able to do that. And I like that idea. I would like to say I initially like an idea of using a pointless piece of property to make it useful. We have a strip of property that'll probably never do anything for us. Now we can have a chance to add 6 acres to Shady, more or less, is how it looks to me. And the community garden is now part of Shady, which I like too. So we've made not Shady just a baseball field, it'd be more of a community area. And I'm not sure what we could or couldn't do with the extra 6 acres, but I'd like to think that with TIF money, that's possible. There's something that can be done. We have funding to do something with it, which would be allowable, if I'm correct, with TIF money to use for additionally acquired 6 acres. Yes?
That was the plan.
All right. It's nice in a way that we have a chance to talk about a development that actually helps us somehow, in a way. I don't want to say that. That's not callous. I apologize. A development that it gives us opportunity to help us in other ways that most do not. So I'm interested in that. And the sanitary, I had a question about the sanitary. So that's a Shaw area off 83. There is no sanitary on 83 anywhere near that, is there?
Not anywhere close at all.
It does give us a chance for future projects to actually bring sanitary to, I know I don't know, sure how many houses are in that area, but a whole point of city that may never get it while I'm around. Otherwise, it'd be a grand undertaking to get sanitary down 83. So
Yeah,
I do
we
like
have
that side effect.
we have talked about running sanitary down 83, but right now it stops at Hampton Place.
Yeah.
So just to get it to Center Ridge will cost a tremendous amount, but to go further south and run it all the way down to the southern border, under the railroad, under the turnpike, you're talking about an astronomical cost. So this is probably the only way that sanitary sewer is going to get over to that area anytime soon.
Without elaborating too much, I remember the story about the cleaning out on the west side of that area. I do remember that from the guys in the service department mentioning that. So enough about that. So I thank you for all the questions that comes ahead. Thank you, Madam President.
So this blue street, what street does it connect to? I may have missed that, but it's not on the map with the street. So that's Waterbury Boulevard?
Yeah, the one end it connects to Waterbury Boulevard, the other end connects to the roundabout.
Okay. I'm a huge fan of builders coming in and helping with the city. I have a history of voting no because we get nothing out of it. The last development that came through I voted yes for was because they put sidewalks on 83 and sewers. I think this is great that Ryan Holmes finally wants to help give back to the community. I'll say it since you won't. But I've lived here my whole life. I've seen this city explode. I do have a question about the no school impact. When I'm 55, I'll have a 14-year-old. So how do you govern that?
Yeah, I don't know if that was an egregious statement of no school impact. I would probably minimal school impact would be a better way to handle that. Furthermore, I mean, per your code, I think we can't restrict it 100%, but I believe it's 80% that needs to be 55 plus. So I'm sure I could do some math and give you a clearer answer, but I would high level say the impact would be minimal.
And would it be an HOA requirement that you're 55 and older to own the home? Like, how do you police that?
I think my understanding was the legislation in the community required that to be part of the condition to in the HOA. So yes.
Because I do mortgage loans for a living, and I've never been asked in any development in the 23 years, are these people 55 and older? So that's why I was kind of curious. I think that's all the questions and comments I had. Does anybody else on the committee have anything further? If not, I will open up the floor to the public. Good.
Jump back for one point.
Yep.
The point you made about the TIF funds with property tax, like phenomenal point. Like I probably heard that 3 times this month from other municipalities with that same concern. So one thing we're exploring now is making sure that the residents that buy in this, exploring if they would be able to sign saying, hey, if property tax are still
Anybody in the public, members of the audience, would like to speak? Please state your name and address for the record.
North-south connectivity. Um, I wonder, does it include pedestrian connectivity and bicycle connectivity, as well as motorized vehicles?
Yes.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Willoughby. Good question.
And I have one other thought. It wasn't that far back that we lost a generous offer from the state to subsidize our school renewals, because a community that was all seniors voted, in block negative to school improvements. Do we want to risk adding another block of seniors who have no school interest, and make it harder to get state matching money to improve our schools with compromised on? We are building a great new school, but we could have gotten a better deal if it weren't for a few votes. A place we all know.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I understand the concern on the voting.
Those are my thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah, that is, that's always, an issue. As people get older, they feel less inclined to support the school district. But, I think the second time around, there was a concentrated effort in that one community, and they did help out to pass the bond issue for the high school. So, maybe it was an effort issue as opposed to an age issue. But, I don't want to speak for the schools, but I think they're pretty close to being wrapped up with new buildings. So I think at least from that perspective, but I think the way the state's been taking their money left and right, they might be coming back and asking the community for money in the future.
Is there any other member in the audience that would like to speak? Sir? Please state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, I think that's, ever since I started this project, that was the holistic approach of tying this to Race Road overpass of, again, it's a whole other route of, we've been building houses in, Ridgeville for 8, 10 years, but there's been accidents on the grade, 20 minutes away to your home, you can't get through. So I always view that as, hey, this could be a whole other route of, you could get through where accident and there's an emergency call on the other side. Again, more connectivity the better. So I do think paired with the raceway, race road overpass, is the full picture here. And green space, I mean, I feel like we covered that great, and Cliff brought up a good point as well. Actually,
Just wondering what we're doing, or?
Yeah, would you guys be willing to put trails in?
Oh, yeah. I think you know, again, we're in that early stage, and everybody, when we bring in a, preliminary plan, there will be planning commission that looks at it, gives their tips or what they'd like to see, and then council will see it again and say, you know what, I don't like it on that side, I'd like it on this side, and we're gonna say crushed limestone, and they're gonna be like, well, we want mulch, or, you know, we'd go back and forth, and that'd be part of the discussion. But trails, it'll also depend, once we get deeper into exploratory, what's the ground like? Do we put in irrigation for the garden? Do we use this portion for some benching? It's all gonna depend on, once it takes shape, what best serves the city, and then how we can help right there.
Thank you. Does anyone else in the audience have any comments or questions? I actually thought of something when we were discussing the roadway. Streets like Avalon, that's a cut through from Case Road to Center Ridge, or Stony Ridge. We get a lot of complaints about cars flying through there speeding. What's the speed limit going to be on this road? Will it be 25 like a residential area?
I think that you guys picked that, right? That's the city, yeah, I think 25.
I would imagine that, you know, as it's going through the neighborhood, it's going to be 25. I don't know what Waterbury Boulevard is right now off the top of my head, but
I believe that's 35.
okay. At some point, I would imagine it would switch over to 35 then, probably right after it leaves that, just past the community garden space is when it would probably change over, is my guess.
There is preliminarily, at least, again, a lot of things in works, is there are no homes directly loaded off of that street. So no driveways are gonna be right on there. It's not like you're I guess there's not even tell, there's probably grandkids, or, you know, again, maybe it won't be right onto that street. So if that main drag wanted to be
Right.
35, and then the individual fingers of streets on either side could be 25, or even 20, depending.
Yeah, if you know the existing Waterbury,
There's
nobody
no homes, yeah.
knows no driveways that come out onto existing Waterbury Boulevard.
Correct. Okay.
And that was like my, again, granted this a couple months ago, but discussions with engineering was they view this as a major thoroughfare, like absolutely no homes would be loaded off of that.
Okay. Will it be a no truck route?
You know, I don't know, but if it's connecting Center Ridge with Route 10, I don't know.
Through the
You mean
chair?
Sugar Ridge?
Seems
the
like it
chair?
might be.
Mr. Abens?
I have to admit, I would support that being a truck route, because they're coming off of supposedly Route 10.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have the right? And that would actually get them off of Sugar Ridge,
It would.
in my thoughts.
If race connects to Center Ridge, yeah.
Also, to answer Cliff's question about response time, Station 2, actually, the route is more direct and a very quick route. They go down Lorraine to the 83 extension into that area. That'll cut down the time tremendously.
Yeah. Well, you think about the people who live over in that area, you know, a lot of those people are going to currently are going down Chestnut to get onto Victoria, to get into Waterbury, and then filter through Waterbury. But you'll have now another option for those people to then take that connector road. And so it'll pull cars off of Chestnut that are currently heading west towards, you know, Waterbury.
I know my constituents won't agree with me, but I think that is a good truck route.
It makes sense for it to be a truck route to connect Center Ridge to Route 10. I mean, if we can pull truck traffic off of Center Ridge, that benefits everybody as well. So if they are looking, instead of going up, you're over to 83 and then heading south all the way, they have that diagonal connection. Makes sense for them to go that way instead. Saves them some time.
So, in other
And
words,
saves us from traffic.
in other words, extra rebar in that road to handle
That was
the
my
trucks.
comment.
Waterbury Boulevard is already built to
know it
withstand
is.
truck traffic.
I
And
remember
so
the-
the next
I remember
section
the
would be as well.
complaints.
Right.
They were very crystal clear on that. It's a substantial amount of road.
A lot of people think they're doing that.
But it's just hard redoing roads year after year after year, and, you know, the trucks are hitting Sugar Ridge and the road's falling apart, no matter how many times you pave it.
Well, we have an issue with just garbage trucks and the weight of those.
Yeah.
They cause some damage to our roads too.
All right, one more time. Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions? Hearing none, I will close lobby session. Any other further comments or questions from the committee? Nope. Hearing none, and nothing is left on the agenda, this meeting is adjourned.
Do we have to move this on its back? No, there's no ordinance. Never mind. This is just presentation.
I'll never forget it. I'll celebrate it.